Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to another tabletop RPG Junction show. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I was not here last week because I was traveling for work, and now I'm back, and there's so much to talk about. So, welcome, everybody. As always, you can catch this show on Saturday mornings on my YouTube channel, The Jocular Junction, live and chat with other people and myself in, said chat room, or you can listen to it as a podcast. So, check it out. Either way, it's available. And thank you so much to the people who are members on the YouTube channel and to patrons for supporting this show. It's always awkward when I take a week off and then I'm like, what is happening? And so I spent most of the morning going through lots of news and trying to figure out what to talk about today. But the biggest thing on my mind right now is I saw Deadpool and Wolverine last night, and it was really fun. I won't do any spoilers. I just wanted to say that as somebody who is now 40-ish, growing up with X-Men and X2, and then all of these Marvel movies that have been happening, it was really fun and clever to see what they were doing with incorporating Hugh Jackman's X-Men and the Fox X-Men franchise into Marvel or into Disney now. And it was really good. It was really fun. I didn't know that they were writing this at the same time as Loki, apparently. So there was some crossover stuff. It was really fun. I really recommend it if you are into the Marvel movies, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about tabletop RPGs. GenCon is right around the corner, and with great GenCon comes great responsibility. The 2024 PHB, although not available until September, will be available at GenCon. Apparently they'll have 3,000 copies to sell. So Wizards of the Coast will be selling that, and people will be picking it up. I'm sure there's going to be lots of new information as of August 1st, because I think that's when the embargo is lifted. I thought I would get an early copy, but nothing's arrived in the mail, so I probably won't at this point. But it would have been fun to be able to get some new content for you guys. Although my channels are not, like this channel, very much not D&D, and the D&D channel is just kind of like lore and stuff. So I'm more excited for the Dungeon Master's Guide and creating content around that. So I'm hoping that I will be able to do, or at least get that book a little early. We'll see. But they have lots of panels. They being Wizards of the Coast have lots of panels set up for Gen Con. And it looks like a lot of information about the PHB, but also the history of D&D, their online tools. So if you're interested in that, Gen Con's going to be doing a lot of stuff. And they also have a fun live game that they're doing with some Twitch, YouTube, tabletop celebrities, and they're going to put that up on the thing. So I think Lucian is going for 1 day. I am not sure if he's going for more than 1 day, but yeah, he should be there for at least 1 day. I am not able to make it to Gen Con this year. I do have a press badge, but the Gen Con tickets are not the problem. They're only $100 and some. It's the $300 a night hotel plus the really expensive plane ticket to get out there and the days off of work and all that other stuff. I thought I had an in this year where I was going to stay with a friend, and then it was so I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence about going, but on paper, I'm not going to be able to go for financial reasons. It's just got too expensive. So we'll see. I mean, it is literally next week, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. There's a new Wizards of the Coast president. I haven't really been following this a lot, but I guess I should, because it's the future of the legacy game that created tabletop RPGs for us. I think she worked for Amazon and Microsoft. She's out, and she quit. And now we have this new one, and his name is John Haidt. And I don't know much about him other than he apparently was not the producer. Oh, he was executive producer for World of Warcraft for 12 years. really emphasizing that growth. So I think he's an ideal choice in Wizards of the Coast's mind, because wow, online, like video games, subscriptions, like this guy just has all of the markings of like, I really want him to make D&D as successful as World of Warcraft was. And since a lot of people look at the MMO as a business model for fantasy tabletop role-playing games, like you have all this lore, you have all these game mechanics, how can we get a monthly subscription going? How can people be thinking about the game when they're not actively in the game? And that is where this guy is going to come into it. So we'll see. There was a World of Warcraft 3.5 D&D conversion, which was kind of fun back in the day. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Blizzard as a company has gone in a very different direction with just, I mean, they were awesome, and they were kind of like held on this pedestal for a long time. And then that hubris got too big, and they fell, and they got greedy with money, and then there were a bunch of other things, but who knows? So I don't know anything about this guy personally. He might be really awesome. He might not. We'll see. But it is one of those things where it feels like a no-brainer from WotC's mind, where they're just like, well, this guy did really well for WoW. We're WoW adjacent. Let's have them do that. So... and something else that somebody mentioned is like, he was there for 12 years. It wasn't like I worked 2 years here and 3 years here and 2 years here. So like that's, he stood with them for a long time. And although I don't think there were ups and downs with WoW, as in a traditional sense where it's like, wow, we had like in the Disney sense where they had like absolutely nothing and then they bounced back from nothing. I don't think, World of Warcraft has ever really done that, but, 12 years. I mean, he stuck with them for a long time. So that's really cool. Wizards of the Coast has removed the digital content team credits from D&D Beyond. This is kind of odd. And I just wanted to point this out because for me, this emphasizes the fact that the data on Wizards of the Coast or on D&D Beyond can change at any time. And we will never be notified if it is changed, because they'll look at it as like, we just have to change things. But Faith Elizabeth Lilly, who was on the digital content team for Wizards of the Coast, her contributor credits have been removed from D&D Beyond. Now, she writes that she feels like she should have been in the physical book because they did a lot of taking the rules and organizing them and trying to make them match in an online presence for D&D Beyond and how to like structure stuff. And so she actually was working not only with Fandom, who owned D&D Beyond back in the day, but like Wizards of the Coast, she was working with them. She was working for Fandom. Like it was a joint thing. And her impacts in the digital sphere had ramifications on the physical books. So she actually was an advocate saying I should have my name in the physical books, or like my team should. But they were like, we're not going to put you in the physical books because of space limitations. Sure. And so, but they put her in the digital ones. Well, now she's not in there anymore. So she just like went and checked randomly or was on D&D Beyond, and she's no longer working for Fandom or Wizards of the Coast. But it's like, that's kind of sad that you just like remove the work. So here, senior producer, Faith Elizabeth, and the design team. And now they're gone because I think we don't want to emphasize that D&D Beyond is different. And I say Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to emphasize that D&D Beyond is different than the physical book. And this is all just more fuel for that fire of like, we're going into a digital realm and we're not coming back. We want subscriptions. We don't want to sell you a book. We want to sell you a subscription and a lifestyle and have you keep coming back and things like that. And that's all I really had to say about this. Like, it's their decision. I don't know. It's their website. They can do what they want. But that's, again, sad that you're not recognizing the people who made this brand possible for you, made this for you. And it makes me sad. And then speaking of that, with like the idea of a lifestyle brand, we have a couple of things happening in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. First of all, Darkhorse Comics has signed an agreement, and they're going to be working on some Magic the Gathering comics and some D&D comics. Those have always been hit or miss. I think there was some Baldur's Gate comics that I enjoyed. I want to say more recently, but that probably was like 2012. And then on top of the D&D comics, I was thinking about the old Forgotten Realms comics that I have digital copies of, and those are actually pretty fun. And I think in the 4th edition era, they made some D&D comics that were very clever, where you would read the comic, and then at the end, it would have a mini dungeon or a mini adventure that was what the characters in the comic just went through. So you could read this, be inspired, and then like, hey, everyone, let's run this 4E adventure at the back of my comic. So that's really smart, and I like that. It all kind of depends on the writers and stuff, but of whether it will be like a fun, enjoyable comic series, who knows? And I love Drizzt, but I don't want another Drizzt comic. I would like some new fun characters. I think that would be really cool. It would be really cool if Acquisitions Incorporated got a D&D comic, and they were talking with, or Tycho was on Twitter, and he was just like D&D comic, Acquisitions Incorporated, like, you already have these really funny characters. It would be an awesome comic series. Like, talk to us, and we'll see if that happens. But I who knows? But people were commenting, like, that's a really cool idea. And he's like, it's kind of like we were always being not laughed at, but just like, oh yeah, if you did an Acquisitions D&D book, that would be kind of silly, right? But it'd be kind of cool at the same time. And then that book turned out to be one of my favorite books for 5th edition D&D. I think the adventure is really fun, and it's probably because I have nostalgia for the Ac Inc. Brand. Like, I like Acquisitions Incorporated, but also the mechanics were really fun for like building your organization and building your business within D&D. Like, it was silly and mechanically very fun, and some good writers on that book. So I'm 100% behind the idea for a D&D comic. I think that would be awesome. And then, yeah, and that's actually great. Hamster of Doom. Jerry is a fun writer. And I don't think that Mike Krahulik is I don't think he's drawn like comics, but like he's drawn a web comic for so long. He's a very talented artist. It's one of those things where I'm like, I think they could make this without Darkhorse coming on, but maybe they want somebody else to help them. I mean, they're very busy to write an entire comic and to draw an extra comic, who knows? But man, that would be really cool. So then there is Lego D&D minifigs, and I'll expand this out so you guys could see a little better. This is funny. Mini figurines, I guess I should say. I wonder if I can put it in a new view original. Hey, there we go. That's a little bigger. So Lego is partnering with Wizards of the Coast, and they're going to make Dungeons and Dragons Lego people. And here's the thing. First of all, I think this is really cool. I think a lot of kids will like the idea of building a dungeon with their Legos and then playing D&D with it. And I already, like, here we have, here's the figure for my D&D game. Like, I made a little Lego guy. I think that's awesome. And some of these are really cool. So we have, like, the Lady of Pain up there. There's Tasha with a cauldron. There's Strahd at the front with a rat. I think that's it. We have a Mind Flare and an Intellect Devourer. Aarakocra. I think in the center that's supposed to be Zastam. And then just Dragonborn and things. I'm not sure what the wizard in the back with the eye on the top is supposed to be. But, oh, and then the Lady of Pain. Like, really awesome. The problem with these is they're making physical loot boxes. So these are going to be in a sealed thing, and you have to buy it and open it up and hope you get the one you want. And I'm like, well, no, because I want the Lady of Pain. I don't want the, like, random tiefling, like, no, now I'm sad because you're going to make me buy a whole bunch of them, and it's gambling, and I don't like that. And so I was really upset that they're making this into like a pseudo gambling thing. But that's what like WizKids, D&D did this with WizKids when they made the figurines, the miniatures. Like, they're always in these sealed boxes, and you have to kind of open them, and it's like, oh, you get 4 of these random ones and these, and it's hard to collect the whole set because you have to buy them randomly. I mean, Magic the Gathering is the exact same way. You buy cards, you're like, oh, what did I get randomly? So I don't know, but I like these. I think they're really cool and I want them. I just am tired of like fake gambling, if that makes sense. In general, not just like with Wizards of the Coast, but it feels kind of like it just feels annoying sometimes where I'm like, I just want the cool thing. So, but still, that's really fun. And then finally, this is kind of more on like lifestyle brand stuff, but not really, I guess. I made a YouTube short on Friday because Beetle and Grimm sent me this Wizards dice set, and it's really cool. I mean, it's a dice set, so how really cool can it be? But like, I thought it was really cool, and the dice are purple because it's a wizard set, but they also have like a ranger set. They have this, and it's kind of fun. So they're coming out with another dice set. And this is not sponsored or anything. I just thought it was really cool. And these are classic modules, but they have when you open the book, it's like dice. So looking at this, here is the Tomb of Horrors. So then you get Tomb of Horrors dice, and they're fun. And then you get a Tomb of Horrors like collectible coin and some information about this thing. So some like trading card stuff, which is really fun. And then you get the box, which you can like display your stuff in. And I just thought that was such a fun idea. And so they've partnered with them to do this. And so here's the Ravenloft one. So if you like Ravenloft, you can get these fun blood dice. And then here's like a Ravenloft coin in the box. And then these cards. It's so fun. I just think it's really, really cool. This is Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, another classic one. And so you get like the robot and then, yeah, art cards and stuff. And here's White Plume Mountain, also awesome. So giant crab, black razor. I don't know. I'm surprised more places haven't done something like this because I just think it's really cool. And of course, Vecna Lives. This is the one I think I want more than anything because I'm a big Vecna Lives fan. Oh man, these are so cool. Now I'm getting all hyped up again. So Beetle and Grimm, if you want to send me a Vecna Lives to like do a review on, I'm available. Super fun. Temple of Elemental Evil, also really cool. Oh, that's a fun coin though, because it has the 4 elements there. That's really fun. So getting all of these together is kind of expensive. Go away. What is this? How do I do this? So yeah, this is all 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 6 of them is $225, which is too much for Jordan. But they have some others, I think, that are smaller. I could be wrong. I think you can get them individually is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, then this was the Wizard. Again, not sponsored, but this was the Wizard dice. Although my dice were different now that I look at this. That's interesting. Yeah, mine were like not translucent-y purple. They were, I had like this dark purple set. And then these were like another shade of purple. So maybe I got like a early factory release or something. I don't know. Or this is not the tin that I got. Yeah, that's probably it. I think those are a different thing. Anyway, so fun times. Those dice sets look really cool. And I lost my connection. We're now reconnecting. So sad. And reconnection successful. So I hope that we're back. Here we go. Yeah. So Professor Dungeon Master makes a lot of videos criticizing Dungeons & Dragons or just Wizards of the Coast. And he's very focused on the financial. And meeting him in real life, he was talking like, oh yeah, well, Apple stock. And so I'm like, you are that guy that's kind of focused on the success and longevity and goodness of a company. And you kind of measure that through stocks and stuff like that. But also he knows that like Hasbro wants to make their shareholders happy more than they want to make their customers happy. And how do you do that? But you become a lifestyle brand, you become this and this and this. So we had a funny video of like the digitizing of D&D because there was a shareholder meeting with Hasbro who basically said like, we're all in. We're all in with digital. You know, we got this new president who did World of Warcraft, and like we are going to make a digital platform and everything's going to be subscription service and blah, 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 blah. And I agreed with most of the things he said. It was just kind of funny to be like, I told you and you didn't listen. And I'm like, I think everyone listened. I think we're all very aware that the evil corporation is trying to get more money and do this and this. Like they're not building a game to benefit humanity or the hobby. But it was just really funny to see that he did that. So you can check out that video. There will be links in the description down below. Paizo, this kind of went under my radar because I don't play Paizo games. But they have revised their licenses. And I think what this means is that they are still operating under the OGL, but then the Orc license will be part of Pathfinder 2nd edition. And so it looked like here's some new information on the things, but it looked like they basically, like, you can use a Pathfinder logo to say like this is compatible with Pathfinder 2e and stuff like that. And then they're doing some alterations to the Orc license, which allows you to do some things. This is the scary thing, is like the Orc license just doesn't, now that we have Creative Commons licenses, like if I am going to make something, it's kind of like, oh, well, boy, I'm not as interested in using this Orc license that can be updated and modified at any time, much like what is happening here. Either for good or for bad, they can update it. The fact that they can update it is kind of the spooky thing. The OGL was like, oh, they can't touch it. That's really cool. I can publish under whatever OGL I want. And the Creative Commons is even better because it's like, it's literally, you don't own it anymore. It's for everybody. So I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll see. But I know that Paizo has a lot of lore around their world as well, and part of the Orc license allows you to do pieces of lore. And on that topic, they have this compatibility license. So they're going to have... Oh, I'm thinking of Starfinder Infinite here, yeah. So the Pathfinder Starfinder Infinite, they're basically putting it on hold until Pathfinder 2e is released, and then the Orc license will like sync up with that. So here it says like you can still write like fan fiction and stuff, or comics, or there's like lots of things you can do, but if you're going to make like Pathfinder content for the game, they're like putting that on hold until you can get out here and do that. And then finally, the fan content policy apparently involves more fan content policy will allow you to sell merchandise using their intellectual property. Yes, for money. So that's pretty crazy. I know that Wizards of the Coast fan content policy is basically like, you can use all of this as long as it's on a platform that's free. So for example, YouTube, I can make a video and I can use Magic the Gathering art and Wizards of the Coast D&D art, and I can make a video about lore using a slideshow of pictures, and that is completely fine. But the minute I paywall that, if I'm making videos of lore between all of this, but I put it on my Patreon, so you're only allowed to watch these videos using art from Wizards of the Coast, if you pay me money, they're like, that's not okay. So it has to be freely available. This is interesting because it's basically like, yeah, I could make t-shirts using your art. I could make all kinds of stuff. And there's probably a lot more situations, but like you could sew plushies and sell them on Etsy. This is pretty big, pretty interesting. And I think it's a bold move for them to say, we want to make Pathfinder lore more dominant in the world. And this is also probably related to Wizards of the Coast doing... I think in the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, they're going to have a list of like, here are the properties, or here are the things that we have that are just like common in D&D. And a lot of them are just from folklore. So like Orcus, here's Orcus, here's what an Orcus is and what an Orcus means in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. And they have their own version of Orcus and their own version of goblins and things like that. So why don't we make people think, when they think goblin, they think Paizo goblin rather than D&D goblin. And I think this is probably a smart move and something that they're trying to, in the long term, they're thinking about how can we do that? So yeah, I talked about that. MCDM announced the name of their RPG. I don't know how I feel about this. Good friend Lex sent me this last night, and James Introcaso posted this where he said, here, let me zoom in a little bit. He said, I got to make a change before I send the patrons the new packet. And it's like, we're going to change the word, or the words MCDM RPG to Draw Steel. So apparently the RPG, we're calling it Draw Steel. So MCDM presents Draw Steel, the fantasy tabletop RPG experience. I don't know if it might, I don't know. We're overthinking it, right? And I think Colville even said, I don't want to announce the name of the RPG because we're going to call it, everyone's going to like nitpick it. And here, what am I doing? I'm like nitpicking and like thinking about, oh yeah, Draw Steel. I don't know. So we'll see. I am going to play this game when it comes out, but I have kind of, aside from watching videos that Colville or James puts out on mechanics and stuff, because I find mechanics interesting, I've been like, man, there's just a lot of stuff going on. And honestly, D&D 2024 has usurped all this other stuff. Like Dungeon Coach, like DC20 came out with his stuff. He had $1 million Kickstarter. That's awesome. And he's been making updates, but I feel like I'm not able to pay attention because I'm like, I really just need 2024 D&D to come out along with the OGL for it. And then we can step back and say, okay, now what's better, kind of a thing. So we'll see. But it's called Draw Steel. So we'll see. There's going to be all these funny memes of people like drawing a steel beam. They're just like, yes, it's an RPG, art experience. Yeah. Meanwhile, all of that is happening, and I'm making videos on Gate Towns. I had a really fun time. I wanted to get back to making some lore videos, so I was like looking at like my topics. I'm like, what could be an interesting lore video? And I was like, I never really did cover Gate Towns because I don't know why. There was just a lot of things happening when the Planescape book came out, and I didn't end up I think it was more focused on Vecna. So I went back and I was like looking at Gate Towns, and I started making that. So I got half of them done. The next video will be the other half, which I haven't actually written the script yet, so I got to work on that today. And then, yeah, so I'll be making some Gate Town videos. You should check that out. And I've got some other fun videos coming on the main channel. And then this got me thinking, because I had a lot of people say like, hey, you're using a lot of second edition Planescape stuff rather than the Planescape 5th edition guide for these Gate Towns. Like, are they backwards compatible? And I was like, well, yeah, it's just lore. It's just NPC names. It's, it's whatever else. Like, everything like that is compatible. And then there's been a lot of talk about, will 2014 D&D be compatible with 2024? And like, how will that work? And I think it will work. I think that 2014 D&D will work very well with 2024 D&D. And the reason I have this mindset is because and I've been wanting to make a video about this, so I probably just should, but like Lex wrote a game called 5B, and it's basically Dungeons and Dragons 5 Basic. And he made a BX version of 5th edition that is compatible with 5th edition D&D. And it sounds weird, but like, we play tested it a lot, and I was in a campaign of this 5B, and it worked really, really well. And then he also did a campaign where he had some players playing 5th edition and some players playing 5B in the same game, and it worked together. And why did it work together? One, because we know that at certain levels, a player should be able to do X amount of damage. Much like monsters and other stuff. So at a certain level, a monster is like, oh, that's a CR this monster because it does more damage. And it's in flux, like anything's, you give a level 1 player 100 magic items and they can do really amazing stuff at level 1 when they shouldn't be. But there's a threshold of power, level 5 people get extra attack, like melee people. And so knowing that framework, he built 5B using things like proficiency bonus. So a lot of things are tied to proficiency bonus that is static throughout the entire game. And a lot of things are tied to your stats, and that is static through the entire game. So when we were playing, I was like some crazy BX thief, and then you would have like the 5e sorcerer, and it really came down to, we're playing the same game, but the sorcerer just has a more complex character, and he has to think about more things than I do. And my character is not as complex and more of a conversation with the game master about, I want to do this. Is that possible? And then him coming up with a role. So it's not perfect because it's a lot of work on the game master. But going into 2024, I think you're going to have a lot of GMs who already know how 2014 works. And they're going to discover that 2024 works just as easily. And then when you want to combine stuff, it's going to be like, okay, well, we'll use 2024 until we run into something that doesn't have a rule for it. And then you go back and you're like, oh yeah, I'll use this 2014 stuff. I don't know. I'm really curious. I want the new stuff to come out, and then I want to start utilizing the 2024 rules with my Plangea game and see if we can like shift over and then see where that takes us. I don't know. That's kind of my experiment that I want to play with, but I think it'll work strictly because Lex already figured it out, and he figured it out with 5B, where it's like, you know, proficiency doesn't change, a lot of other stuff. We can make it work. So we'll see. Crowdfunding. These were some crowdfundings that kind of caught my eye that I wanted to talk about today. So none of these are sponsored. I just like the idea of them. And about once a week or once every 2 weeks, I kind of go through Kickstarter and BackerKit. And I'm like, what's new and interesting? Like, what creative project are people making? So here's one that I liked, and it was called Codex Arcana. And this is a spell creation system. So how do you create your own spells? And this got me thinking about, there was a, I think it was Knave 2e came out, and I was reading that, and that spell creation system is just a whole bunch of tables. You combine words, and then you say like, I think that the spell does this, GM, do you agree? And the game master says, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And so you're combining different words. I should have had an example, but I don't have one. But like you combine, you know, I'm making an acid fog. Like, you know, fog could be a spell and acid could be a spell, but I'm going to combine the two and make acid fog. And now we have to kind of talk about like, well, what does that actually do? What's the radius of it? And so this system feels like that. I don't know it entirely, but like it's 1,000 magical spell effects, and then you can kind of create new stuff through that. This says it's like 5e compatible, so I don't know if it's going to be very detailed for 5e, but I like the idea of a big table of magical effects that I can choose from and kind of pick and put stuff together. So I've never heard of the company, but they are, you know, it's like your typical 5e Kickstarter. They got lots of stuff going on. Like here's our physical books, and they have Locked Layers is a puzzle book that they had previously, so you get that. So Codex Arcana for 5e. Who's doing this though? Like, who is it? Theorycraft. So they're from the UK, and they've created 11 other Kickstarters. Let's look at their thing here. So pretty legit if they've made 11, but yeah. So it looks like Monsters, Locked Layers, Codex Arcana, Riddle Register, Adventure Awakes. Oh, that was like a journal they did. Hit-based digital miniatures. Okay. So, and then Character Development Planner. So like some journaling stuff, and it looks like they're making actual books now, but it seems legit. The other one, which this is kind of a lie because this is sponsored. So Dice Dungeons is doing 80s Adventure. And they have actually sponsored a video on the main channel, so I will be doing this, but, I need to take some coffee here. I'll be doing a more in-depth video on this, but the idea is that they like movies from the 80s, and they're like, what if we built adventures and tropes around 80s movies, but put them in a fantasy world? So it's kind of like I'm climbing the wizard tower of from Die Hard or something. So you could like play Die Hard. My characters are all these characters from Die Hard, but instead of Nakatomi Tower, it's the tower of the wizard, the great wizard Nakatomi. And you have to stop things like that. So I like tongue-in-cheek. I like nostalgia. I think this would be really fun with the right people. And they showed me some of the art and the adventures and the things that they're working on and the magic items and stuff. And it looks really, really funny. So they're just calling it 80s Adventures. This is like what did the creator say? He was like, no, we were always kind of joking around that would be a really funny thing. And then they were like, wait, what if we do it? And so then they jumped in and did it. So this is not out yet. This is coming soon, but I think it's like August. So it's right around the corner. So for sure, keep in mind of that. Like you got Karate Kid stuff. They've got, 5 thrilling cinematic modules, 12 club subclasses, a bunch of magic items, group inspiration mechanics, new monsters. It's going to be pretty cool. Oh, and I did talk to them about this because I was like, hey, 5.5's coming out. Like, what are you going to do? And they're like, well, we're like a year out from actually delivering this after the Kickstarter ends. So they think that that will be enough time to augment what they have written already for 2024 D&D. So, but seems really fun. And then finally, I found this. You guys know how I like D6 systems. I really think this is fun. So this is D6 System 2nd Edition. So West End Games made the D6 system when they made Ghostbusters, and then they used that system moving forward for Star Wars, which I think was their biggest one. So they made a Star Wars system for West End Games, or West End Games made a Star Wars system for Star Wars. But it uses like a big pool of D6s. And this is the one that I've been stealing from and kind of manipulating because it's an open system now. When West End Games went, not went under, but like when they closed shop, they basically put the base system out in public domain. So it was under the OGL, I think. And there was a website for a while called d6project.org that I don't think works anymore. So I don't want to go there because it like redirected me to some weird sites, and I don't want to do that while I'm live on the air. But they it was just open. So I think this is kind of cool, and it looks like they're have a similar kind of mentality where it was D6 fantasy, D6 space, D6 I don't know, what was the other ones, like street, and you could have like mysteries and stuff, or D6 vampire. Like you could use it for so many different things. And so they've got 3 books here, and this looks like they're doing like a space one and like a fantasy one and things like that. So, or maybe it's all just, no, this middle one looks like a zombie, so who knows. Fulfilled through drive-through, so that's kind of cool. And then, yeah, here we go. D6 fantasy. So, yeah, this is a really interesting system, and it is super fun. I thought when I was originally reading it, I always felt like the numbers got way too high. And so it is just like, wow, I'm rolling 42 D6s right now. Like that's not what I want to do at all. But there's ways to tone it down. And yeah, so I don't know how much this is a 2E or if it's just a revised version, since it is kind of in the public domain and you can kind of go forward with it. But yeah, our goal is to produce a full color hardcover 200-page book with other PDFs, the core rules, escalating modularity. Yeah, it seems really cool. So this is out of the UK. Yeah, risk and challenges. And this is Gallant Knight Games. Oh, Gallant Knight Games made Tiny D6, I believe. Now I gotta look that up. Yes. Ahaha. So, Gallant Knight Games, they made Tiny D6, which is a game that I really enjoy, and Tiny Dungeon was the one that I bought, but they have expanded it out into all these other little subgenres of stuff. Tiny Wastelands, Tiny Pirates. And I think there's an advanced Tiny D6, because it was started out as a joke, and then they're like, oh, let's just make it. But like, this is really interesting because you only roll 1 to 3 dice, and everything is a success on a 5 or a 6. So it's super simple. I think it's great for kids because it's like, what do you want to do? It's like, oh, if you have advantage, you roll 3d6. If you don't have advantage, if you have disadvantage, you roll 1. And if it's a normal roll, you roll 2d6. And then did you get a 5 or a 6? Then you succeeded on the task. So yeah, looks. What other games do they have? Now I'm all curious. For Coin and Blood, Zorro, the role-playing game, and Squeak. Things that go squeak in the night. So I don't know about their other games, but yeah. I am curious about this because I like, yeah. What about complexity in the project overwhelms? We have straightforward pledge levels to make it easy to manage, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I like Tiny D6. This could be fun to play with and experiment more. So, Moving on. So this is part of the show where I'm going to kind of talk about my design and inspirations, but boy, I will tell you that I have been very busy with work and life, and that is why I am not I do not have a lot of stuff going on with my design. I posted the updated I added classes to Modular D6, and I posted it on the Patreon. If I think today or tomorrow, I should just export that same PDF and put it on itch.io for free, and you guys can download it there and read it and tell me what you think. I'm having a hard time getting a group together to play it is the problem. So if you guys are interested in playing, join the Discord and let me know. And I'm going to start like a new little group where it's like we can try to organize a test play of Modular D6. And I think it'll be fantasy based to start. So you can be like a wizard, thief, fighter kind of thing, and then we'll go from there. So join the Discord and get there, because I'm looking for players. We're going to play online. I'm going to make a what am I going to make? A Roll20 account, and I'm going to try and configure it to make it work with how the game works. So yeah. So other than that, I found a book that my wife got me for Christmas that I read a lot, and I had this fun idea to make into like shorts. So this is the Dictionary of Imaginary Places. It's really fun. It's written by Alberto Manuel and Gianni Guadalupe. And it's just that, like, you look up Mordor, and there's an article here on Mordor and like what Mordor is and things like that. The cool thing about this book, though, is you can potentially just open it to any random page and find some really awesome public domain something, and it works for like a dungeon. It works for your tabletop RPG. So I had this idea of like, I should make some YouTube shorts based on this, where I just kind of open it up and I'm like, can we turn this into a tabletop RPG location? And you can. So a lot of this, I would say like 80% of this is public domain, because there's things like Mordor that is not, but there's a lot of it that's public domain, and it would work really well. There's a lot of islands. I think in like the 16 and 1700s, there was a lot of like sailing and finding weird islands where the people were giants, or weird islands full of like, I don't know, crab people or something. But I think it could work really well for game masters. And so I think it'll be fun. I'm going to make a bunch of those. I've already got 3 of them made. They're scheduled for Fridays on the main channel. So subscribe there and watch. And we'll see if people like it, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. And this has been a huge inspiration for me, just kind of like creating like little small adventures for Modular D6 to test it out. So I think it'll be awesome. Yeah, Moa Peach, you gotta join. Gotta play. And then finally my games. So I ran Dungeon Crawl Classics, Dying Earth, the 0 level funnel, which is the Black Obelisk funnel. And I ran that before for new people, and now I ran it for my table where we've been playing Forbidden Lands, but the game master wanted to take a break to run a Star Wars game, and I couldn't make the Star Wars game, so I offered to do this so he's not running 2 games at the same time. We should be a group of drow. Yes, 100%. We can work that in. And so we're going to go through the Dying Earth modules and play Dungeon Crawl Classics, because they like the idea of Dungeon Crawl Classics. I've got a Vat Thing, a Cleric, 2 Wizards, and a Magician. So it's going to be a very spell-heavy focused thing. I don't know how long they'll last, because they don't really have a lot of people that can take hits other than the Vat Thing. So we'll see. But tomorrow, I'm running the level 1 adventure, which is the Laughing Idol of Larshan, which I had a lot of fun running before, and I think this will be equally fun. So that's going to be tomorrow. Really excited for that. And then last Saturday was Dungeon Crawl Classics Day, and I ran the Queen of Elfland Sun and had so much fun with it. That was a great module. And we didn't even really touch a lot of the dungeon. Like, they got to a few points of the dungeon, but not all over. Mostly for time, and then they actually just kind of wrapped it up really, really well. So, but that's every adventure. Like, you're not going to get to everything in a tabletop adventure, because usually there's something that's left behind so that you can rerun it and things like that. But I do recommend The Queen of Elfland Sun. It's a level 1 adventure. We had a lot of fun with it. I actually had a dad, and he brought his 2 kids, and they had only ever played D&D before, 5e. And they were just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess we'll try this. You know, dad thinks it's cool. And they had so much fun. And their dad, we're in a Discord, and their dad messaged the Discord publicly and was like, my kids won't stop talking about it. Like, they had the best time. They thought that was the coolest game and the coolest system. So awesome. Go out and run games. And that led us to a topic of like, where can I find these books? And we were like, well, our game store doesn't have them because they're dumb. So maybe you could go here. But then we started looking online. There's a fantastic, if you want to get into Dungeon Crawl Classics, again, not sponsored, but if you want to get into Dungeon Crawl Classics, they have a first-time fan kit. And so for $50, you get a hardcover book, you get 2 sets of Xochi dice, and you get a judge's screen, some scratch-off character sheets, and the adventure Frozen in Time, which I think is one of the best adventures, because you could run Frozen in Time as a 0 level funnel or a level 1 game. It's really, I mean, I think most of the level 1 adventures can be run that way, but this one specifically was written with the idea of you being like cavemen exploring this, or you could be level 1 adventurers exploring this. And like $50, that's awesome to get dice, the book, of the adventure, and some scratch off character sheets. So I thought that was really cool. You should definitely check that out. If you have some friends who are interested but don't know where to start, like, that's perfect. So, Dungeon Crawl Classics. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. Thank you so much for watching. It's good to be back, and I will probably be back next week, unless I'm at GenCon, which I don't think I will be. So if not, then we will be covering all of the news of GenCon. Right now it's San Diego Comic-Con, and the news that I got out of there's some D&D stuff going on, but I also wanted to point out Critical Role released a Season 3 trailer for their animated series. So definitely should have to check that out. 100% you should do that. Yeah, game stores do have an issue. Like, books are hard to sell. Or not hard to sell, but like, you have to have shelf space for them. And they're like, we could also have shelf space for other stuff. So I totally get it. But like, yeah, I'm not blaming my game store. Whatever. We just wanted them to have more DCC stuff. But if it doesn't make a lot of money, they're not going to sell it. I understand why. So I really enjoyed Vecna. I really enjoyed Critical Role's Season 1 and 2. I think I like the animated show a lot more than their like live action show of actual play D&D. But the stories that they come up with there turn into really interesting stuff. So I'm excited for, Season 3 of Critical Role. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And then next week, I think we're going to have lots and lots to talk about. So maybe I should take a couple days off just to make videos. That would be fun. So stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay awesome, and I will see you guys in the next video.